Welcome to Ask the Accountant. We have cool friends, and today we definitely have a cool friend with us. Now, you'll notice Johann isn't with us today, but don't worry, we're still going to be grilling our guest and making sure that we get all of the juicy content out of it. So first and foremost, let's introduce our guest and let him introduce himself from Bright. Jonathan, would you like to explain to everyone who, where, what, everything else that people should know about you?
Excellent. Thanks very much. Well, I suppose big thank you, obviously, for having me on the session to start with. It's a pleasure to be here in really cool surroundings as well. I was just going to say we're recording in the Brewdog Bar, which, I'm disappointed to not see the office, Aaron, but I have to admit this is a great substitute. So a bit about myself. Obviously, I'm Jonathan Stobart from Bright, and at Bright, I take up the role of Events and Partnership Manager. So the thing that you should know about me is that my background is always been in accountancy. So I was a marketing graduate, graduated from the University of Coventry, went to go work within an accountancy firm as a marketing executive, and worked my way up to become marketing manager and ended up staying at that firm for 9 years. So I suppose during my time at the firm, I really began to actually quite love accountancy and really appreciate accountancy as a business. And we did some great work in that firm. We utilised some really cool tools, and I was quite proud to see the impact that we had on our clients' businesses. That's kind of like really got me quite excited about the accounting industry. And then as time went on, I started obviously to look at alternative different career opportunities, shall we say. Found a role as Accountancy Manager, practice management software, which you guys might have heard of. And that's where I kind of joined them at the start of 2020 as their marketing manager, got promoted as head of marketing. And that brought me up to 2022 when we got acquired by Bright. And then I joined Bright and took up the role of Events and Partnership Manager. So that's, I suppose, a little whistle-stop tour of who Jonathan is and why I'm talking to you today.
Love it. And I want to go through some of those key points and those key events, because I think you've got a really interesting story to tell, especially, we'll get to it, but the Bright acquisition and everything that went there in the future. And I think we've got a lot to talk about there. But before we get to there, can you tell us a little bit more? You gave us a great introduction to your history, but what of the accountancy manager history? Because I think that's where a lot of people do know it from. And I know we're definitely going to talk about how that's a blessing and a curse, because accounting manager is what most people recognise you guys from. But, going forward, we want to be more of a Bright ecosystem, and there's all that to talk about. But let's concentrate on accounting manager. What's the history behind that? Who was the brainchild behind it? What do you know from what you know so far?
Yeah, so AM's got a great history, to be honest with you. So we was founded by our founder, obviously, James Byrne. So James was a practicing accountant, was working in his own firm, responsible for business development and obviously facilitating clients' work and so on, et cetera, et cetera. Really recognised that he didn't have enough time in the day, wanted some sort of solution to be able to take on new clients quicker, get them send out less engagements, actually manage the practice. Had a look on the internet, couldn't really find a solution that ticked every box for him. Thankfully, he knew a software developer, Alex Hawke, and the pair of them decided to build Accountancy Manager together. And James would be working in the practice, Alex would be sat alongside him. So every time James would kind of come into some sort of inefficiency or some sort of problem, he'd kind of say to Alex, look at this, like surely there's got to be a better way of doing this. And then Alex would build a software solution for that problem. Now, that ethos is still very apparent today, what it was right when we started, because James was the accountant telling a developer to build the products, to build the solutions. That is still the same today. It's just that rather than having one accountant telling one developer, we've got obviously thousands and thousands of accountants all using Accountancy Manager, feeding into our team of developers that we've got, driving that roadmap forward and hopefully keep tailoring the solution to better suit our users' needs.
Yeah, and I think that's a real key point you mentioned there about the pain points that was found at the beginning. A lot of people know from my point of view, I'm a massive accounting manager advocate. I love the fact what it's done for our practice. It's definitely made us go from strength to strength, and it is one of those key pieces of software that we always fall back on. And as long as Accountancy Manager is working right and we've got that right, that's our Bible of truth, if you like, and we've always worked with that. But I think for us, our first time looking and seeing and understanding what Accounting Manager is, and like you said, like the idea of going on Google, trying to find the right solution that you need for your practice, I'll always remember that member of staff who came to me and said, look, have you seen this Accounting Manager? And for them, the bit that blew them away was just something as simple as the 64-8 process and having a little tick box. You you want to take on this service and this service, so accounts and self-assessment and payroll, and then it would then prompt you to do the 64/8 and something simple as that. And I think that's what definitely drew our attention to what Accountancy Manager is, because like you said, it's pain points, isn't it? And you're solving those pain points.
And that is, the 64 is a great example about where you get the value and the insight from having an accountant at the helm, if you will. We utilize that insight, that's his experiences to drive forward the roadmap, and then of course now it's taken on the experiences of our existing user base. But it really is a piece of software built by an accountant for accountants. I know there's a couple of software vendors out there saying the similar sort of message, but for me it's worth its weight in gold to be able to actually kind of practice what you preach in regards to, okay, this is who we are, and we are listening, and trying to tailor our solution accordingly. We're not a software company that was set up and was quite generic, and then we realized we had lots of accounting clients and decided to focus down on that as a niche. No, we've always been for accountants and developed our offering accordingly.
Yeah, and we can definitely tell, like, just the way that you position the product, even just something as simple as when you set up a client, the first thing it's asking for is company's house information. That's not something that was just bolted on later down the line. That was part and parcel of your whole ethos, wasn't it? Let's make it easy. Let's make it simple. Let's make it easy to put on.
What I should say is it's interesting you're saying that 64/8 really jumped out to you, because different things jump out to different people. And like, I suppose one of my challenges is talking to the client base to understand what they're using Accountancy Manager for. When they logging in, what is it that they're going for? Because I talk to some users, we like to think that every user uses every aspect of the system, but in reality, there'll be some users that log in, they just use it for their task management. There'll be other users that log in and they just use it for onboarding, for instance, or just to have a client file, or perhaps they're logging in and they're actually using it for automation. Obviously, the super users are probably using more features, and that's what we're, certainly from a marketing perspective, we're trying to continually demonstrate what the system can do for people. And because we hear about it, and we get excited to hear about the impact that it's had on different firms, different users, practices, and also their lives, because saving people's time. And the more we can get everybody using those features, the better the system will have the impact in the practice.
Yeah, and I'm glad you went down that, because that was my next question. The biggest frustration I have about people who talk about Accountancy Manager is that, I can't get it to work for me, or it's not quite doing what I wanted. But a lot of the time it's because they're just using 10% of the functionality. Right. What's your way forward now that you've got that opportunity to really get to grips of what it is that the software does? What's your strategy now to make sure that you are open? Is it more content, or are you, is it just you shouting from the rooftops? What's your strategy to try and show people the power of what it can be?
Content is definitely a key avenue for us, and that's what we're doing from a marketing perspective, to be able to continually demonstrate the functionality and what it does. Oh, did you know we have this feature? Oh, by the way, here it is. And so me and my team, we've been doing various different bits in that regard, such as webinars. We've been running a series of webinars called What's This Button Do, where we just kind of pick one aspect of the system and really diving into it, trying to go through every single nook and cranny that feature has to offer, and taking questions from the audience as we're going. We also put out a lot of video content, again giving maybe a minute overview of something in particular, just try to get people to, I didn't know it did that, I don't use it for that, and get them to have a look into it. But I think the biggest thing that we do is the introduction of the customer success team. Now, and we're going to talk about Bright in a bit more detail later on, but when people kind of say to me, well, what's Bright done for Accountancy Manager? It's probably, this is a great example where I can kind of point to and say, oh look, because Bright came along and Bright were able to give us extra resources and extra funds, if you will, we're able to invest more in our team, and we're able to introduce a customer success team whose job is to go through the client base to identify people that perhaps could be utilising the system more, or perhaps aren't utilising the system to its full extent, and working with those firms to make sure that they are using it to its full extent. We're not trying to get any extra revenue out of these clients. We're just trying to get them to maximise their outputs from the system that they're already investing in. There's no extra costs for using more tasks. There's no extra cost for putting more clients onto the system. Just, you might as well utilise it. It's already there. You're already paying for it. Because of course we want people to utilise the system. We want people to use it to its maximum extent, so that they get the maximum benefit out from the system.
Brilliant. And I love that whole idea about getting the maximum benefit, because for me, again, I feel like maybe I'm a small percentage of the AM users who are trying to use every ounce of it. Like that's what we invest our time in the software that we want to, really get behind, because for us, that helps us get development of more efficiencies, and it helps us be able to service our clients better. And we're very much in the minority, I think, at the moment of trying to do that. So with your kind of insight into the kind of clients you're bringing on board, what is the biggest barrier to entry, do you think, that you're finding from the clients at the moment for Accounting Manager? Is it other competitors? Is it, paper and pen? What is it that's doing it? Because for me, like, just the simplicity of being able to have a call with a potential new client, be able to quickly put the information onto Accounting Manager, send them out a link, and from that one link, from that one email, they can onboard themselves. That is magic to me, and that always will be. But what's the barrier of entry? What do you see people preventing themselves from jumping onto Accounting Manager?
Two things, and I think the first thing is really understanding what practice management systems do for you. And so, like, a lot of our communication that we're always putting out to the market is about, this is practice management software, this is what it does. And there's a lot of information out there about PM systems, but that I would say there's a lot of people out there still using something like Excel for their practice management system. And so sometimes people compare us to other competitors, and we talk about other competitors' functionality in comparison to ours. And I always say I'm not so bothered about the competitors. I'm more bothered about Excel. I'm more bothered about accountants, looking into practice management software and then kind of going, well, naturally, my spreadsheet is good enough. I'm going to stick with what I'm doing. It's not broken. Why would I fix it? Well, there's a whole load of reasons why you should fix it, because actually it's probably not scalable, and it's not giving you the benefits that a system could provide you, etc. So my biggest barrier, I think, is getting people to understand, actually they should think about some sort of solution. Obviously, I'd love for it to be Accountancy Manager, but bigger picture, I just want more people to embrace technology. I want more people to embrace practice management systems. We, as an accounting industry, I always think we're quite forward thinking. Xero first came into the UK. When was it? I think was it about 2010, maybe before that, 2007 was it? Yeah. Anyways, but I started in practice in 2011, and we were one of the first partners to really embrace Xero in a big way, and we kind of pushed that, and that was our USP for quite a while. And then I'd say by about 2015, everybody was on Xero, QuickBooks, or Free Agent, the like. And we really kind of broken down that mentality of, okay, this is the future of accounting. This is the systems that we should be using. But internally, what systems were we using? And the firm I was at, as were many firms, probably still had outdated processes for practice management. Like the firm I was at, they were using a spreadsheet, of course, to plan out jobs and who was going to be working on what assignments. That's quite common, that is, across the industry, and I think it's still quite common today as what it was when I was in practice all those years ago. My second barrier is, so we get people that kind of understand what practice management systems are, what benefits it could be. They're interested enough to actually sign up. You do have to invest time to set the system up, to get the system working for you, and that is another big barrier. I would say a lot of people fall down because they don't want to invest the time to be able to get set up. That's been a big problem for Accountancy Manager, I think, for a while. We can't get that. We make it as easy as we can do to get set up and go with the system. And I think it is quite easy to get started. You have to complete a spreadsheet, but sometimes people don't want to spend the time to really set up the system, and they're probably going to drop off, or they've got lots of members of the staff, and the staff perhaps are maybe a little bit resistant to change, and therefore they don't embrace it, and then it doesn't get utilised fully throughout the firm, and then that's where it's going to drop off. So again, because of Bright, we've been able to put in the customer success team. The customer success team work with new users coming on board to get them set up on Accountancy Manager. Huge benefit, absolutely massive benefit in comparison to our old ways. Unfortunately, although we had a support team, they can only answer questions that they getting asked. So to be able to actually have somebody saying, I will help you get you set up if you want me to, is a massive benefit for us.
Yeah, I must give credit to your support team as well. They probably hate my name popping up because it's one of those that comes up on a regular basis. But they are always on it straight away. They've always got answers for us. And, again, we're trying to push those aspects that maybe not everyone's using, so your integrations and things like that. So I do feel for them when I'm kind of asking a question or, saying that this is not working and everything else. But it is, I do feel like it's one of those things that going forward, I think, kudos to you guys because you've always been, and that's what everyone says, like the support is always there. And it is a complicated system. It's not designed to be, but the idea of practice management, the idea of not just getting the staff to be bought in, but you've got to get your clients bought in as well.
It's a huge fundamental piece of software in your practice. It should be the foundation of the practice. It should be the principal point of truth of which other systems are then going to integrate with. So if it's going to have that big impact in your firm, of course it's going to warrant input from yourselves, but also you're going to have to lean on a support team. So I wouldn't feel sorry for support teams for contacting them, because that's what we want people to do. Yeah. We're always advocating that. We've got a phone line as well as email support. The support team are literally in the office every day, just there to answer any queries that people may have. And we want people to feel like they can call up the support team. And I love talking to users at the accountancy events, such as Accountex, DAS, or all the rest of them. And people say, oh, yeah, like you just said, your support team must hate me. No, quite the opposite. The support team are happy and they want to build relationships with people, because if you're asking questions, you're engaged. And that's what we want. We want engaged users. We don't just want subscribers, people just paying for the system going, oh yeah, I've got an Accountancy Manager subscription. We want people to actually be involved with the business. What we really want is people to give feedback on the system. Well, okay, so this is what it's doing. How is it working for you? How can we get it to work better for you? Oh, what you've got some extra feature requests? Great, let's put them into submission. Let's get them on the roadmap. Let's investigate it. Let's discuss it. So the more we can get people involved, the more we can build up a community. And I feel like we're starting to build that with Accountancy Manager. We're now part of the Bright suite, and we've got some work to do to build up that Bright community. And I feel like we're starting to make some ground on that and try to get that sort of brand recognition, get that sort of feeling of loyalty to Bright that we had at Accountancy Manager. But it all starts with feeling like you can pick up the phone or feeling like you can get in contact. So if there's any AM users sat there listening to this, I would say don't for 1 minute hesitate about contacting the support team, because your relationship with Accountancy Manager starts there. I hope it would go on and you start to touch on various different aspects, like coming to our webinars, like listening to me, talking to our colleagues, our friends, other software vendors. And I hope it then goes on to that you are submitting feature requests and getting involved in roadmap and even perhaps beta testing some of our other features that are coming down the track. Because those sorts of relationships are what we ultimately want. And I feel like the more people we can get to have that relationship with Accountancy Manager and Brights, the better we'll all be.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, kudos where it's due. And one of the things you do really well is you give the community an option to have a say of what the roadmap's going to be. There's every so often there's the, these are the features we're looking to do. What takes your priority? And we get that option to have that vote in and have that say. And I think that's important because that's showing that you care about what the community wants, when they want it, and how it goes. So we can't really fault you on that one. I think that's Accounting Manager, and I think we could talk. To be honest, I could talk for hours from Accounting Manager, but let's go for the next stage in the story, though. Let's talk about this Bright acquisition and how it came, because from our point of view, it came out of the blue. Clearly, from your point of view, you must have had years of preparation for this one. So do you want to give us some story and some backdrop on how the whole Bright story came about and what that means?
It's an interesting perception that you just said there. It'll be years of preparation. There generally wasn't. I think James Byrne, the old founder, he was very happy being independent. We were all quite happy being independent. And I used to talk about when 2020 and put a bit before that, really, I was kind of saying we're in the golden era of accounting software at this stage. I think particularly by 2020, there's quite a few of us out there that really kind of established our offering. We had really good functionality that we're putting out to our users. I remember when I joined AM and the penny really dropped for me, because of course any employee starting at a new firm, you start off, you're like, oh, I wonder, what's this business like? The penny really dropped for me when I started getting the feedback from users. I was like, wow, okay, this place is really onto something. People love this product that we're selling, and we were quite happy being in control of our own destiny, and we didn't have big aspirations to build the business up to get it acquired. Genuinely, the approach was made by Bright, and it just made sense for everybody. So I suppose we'll give Bright's story. I think it gives it a better perspective. And so, Bright was founded by BrightPay acquiring Relate software over in Ireland. So they're like practice management software, and they joined forces, and there's a reasonable offering, and they kind of went, okay, we've got something here. But what really do we need to put out to the market? They identify practice management as being the foundation, as we just discussed earlier, and they kind of investigated the market to, okay, who is the people that would best fit our brands. Now, the big thing about Bright is customer support, again, is paramount to everything that they're doing, and they really want the companies that we're bringing into the group to echo what we're already saying, to have the relationships with their users that we've already got with ours. We don't want to bring somebody else in and not be a match, because that's not what we're trying to achieve. It's not what we're trying to build the Bright brand to be. So Bright looked at the market, identified the Accountancy Manager, made an approach, and of course then there was obviously negotiations going back and forth in various different things, obviously that I wasn't involved in, and then ultimately they did to ultimately then go and acquire Accountancy Manager. So I think it was a bit of a shock to our users. It was a surprise to some of the members of staff as well. But actually, as we've continued to get integrated, and what now we're probably be about a year since the acquisition, it just continually makes sense on various different points. The teams internally are very alike. We've got a very similar approach to the way we want to conduct business, the way we want to develop the products, the impact we want to make in the accounting industry. So I feel like the synergy between BrightPay, Surf, and now Accountancy Manager, now BTC, we're all alike. We've all got similar thinking. We've all got the same mentality. We've all got the same motivations, and we're all heading in the same right direction. So the acquisition has been very positive. I've spoken about the impact that it's had on the business. I think what we recognise is we still are lots of small different software companies that's all been pulled into one bigger company, and our challenge at the moment is to try to unify the products, unify the company more, make everything much more bright than it was perhaps the legacy products. And as I said earlier, that I want to try and build up the relationship with Bright, with our users. I know people will always associate us with the product that they use, but I think, and hopefully over time, they will start to think fondly of Bright as the same way that they do about Accountancy Manager.
Yeah, and I think it's what I like about the acquisition so far, and what's happened, and what we can see as the user looking inwards, is it's very much a case that every part of the acquisition so far, it's whatever the main brand is by Bright. So you've got Accounting Manager by Bright, or Bright, or whatever the acronym at the bottom is. And I like the fact that for now it's not a wholesale change, and it's not, well, now we're acquired by Bright, this all changes and down this route and everything else. We're still in our own little ecosystem, and we can just see there's benefits starting to add on. Whereas a competitor's approach would be, well, we're going to strip it down, we're going to take all the assets, and then we're going to create it brand new, and it's a big bang approach to it. Was that by device, or was that was that on purpose, or is that the aim is to still have individual parts there?
No, I think that Bright recognised that Accountancy Manager has a strong offering, and we had really we've got solid people in different positions throughout the organisation. And internally, a lot of us have kind of taken up new positions within Bright, had promotions. So, for instance, Kevin McCallum, who was our CEO at Accountancy Manager, he's now CEO of Bright. Marcus Bellis was our head of sales at Accountancy Manager, he's now head of sales for Bright. And it speaks volumes for me for the level of quality of people that we had within Accountancy Manager, and also the role that Accountancy Manager is having within Bright. They're not just picking us up and just like, okay, right, that's a new product we've got, this is the way we do things. They've brought us into the group because they want us to have a role within the group as well. So they're integrating the people, the functionality, all our systems into the wider Bright sphere, if you will. And so we're going forward. We will continue to play a role in Bright's future. We're not just got acquired and kind of left to our own devices, if you will.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that's that gets me excited because it makes it an ecosystem then, doesn't it? Like that's what we're seeing. That's what, because AM wasn't the last acquisition that Bright made, was it? They've already made BTC, and I'm sure you're not allowed to say on here and give us an exclusive, but we can only imagine that some part down the line there will be at least talks for further acquisitions or
there will be.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we've always kind of made our intentions as a group quite clear. I think what I've always liked is that I feel we're very transparent, and we've always been that way with Accountancy Manager. Again, I feel we're quite transparent with Bright in what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide every piece of software that an accountant could possibly need within the Bright group. So we're not going to stop at where we're at now. I'm sure we will go on to go and acquire new pieces of software going forward. I'm not in a position, I generally don't know of anything that's in the line at the moment, but I can guarantee that we will continue to develop our offering. If our users want it, we can work hard to keep delivering it to them.
And that's for me where the excitement comes from, because I feel like in the accountancy world as software, we've kind of gone through a transition. We've gone through this idea that let's try and build a piece of software that can talk to everything and we can have all these integrations. And on paper, that works really well. A great example that I have for you guys was I had written off Go Proposal a long time ago. And then you said, well, there's an integration coming. So I opened my eyes and I started to look into them again. And it was because, the idea that Go Proposal could talk to Accounting Manager really sung to me. That was a great idea and a great concept to at least see if that's going to help our practice go to the next step and make more efficiencies and everything else.
So sorry to interrupt there, but I just want to, that speaks to me for the future of accounting software. So I was talking earlier actually about the golden era of accounting software. Sorry, I didn't finish off saying that analogy because we back in 2019, 2020, we had really strong offerings, I felt, and all the businesses were quite established. So Accountancy Manager by this stage had been going for 3 years. So we kind of got through that testing new startup stage, and we were an established business. And not just Accountancy Manager, lots of different businesses within the industry were in the same sort of position. And I felt like accountants had a lot of choice. In reality, I don't think it was the golden era for the accountant in regards to accounting software, because you had all these different pieces of software all doing great things individually, but they didn't integrate with each other. So going forwards, the way that accounting software solutions are going to work is by integration, is by working together, and less about competing. Oh, I do this, and I don't want to work with you. No. Let's talk about integrations. Let's try to bring in. Oh, our customers are using Go Proposal and they're requesting an integration. Okay, let's do that. Let's build that. So I think going forwards, of course, we've got to try and focus on getting the Bright products to integrate with themselves to start with. But our door's always open. We want to try and integrate and play a role within the accounting industry, much more than just the Bright ecosystem. So, yeah. So sorry, that's the way I see it going anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's right to see that. And I think we've had that for a while of these great integrations, or at least on paper, they sound like fantastic solutions where, and for us as accountants now, it's a huge buying decision. We will look at whatever we're looking to buy now. Does it integrate with what we currently have? Yes or no? That's a tick box. That's a way of being able to, justify should we be buying said item, whatever it's going to be. But I think the only problem we have at this point in time is that integration idea on paper sounds amazing, but you're always at limits to one or the other in that partnership, whatever that group, whatever the integrations are going to be. And in reality, what tends to happen is, it doesn't quite work as it intends to. There's something that's not quite doing what it should do, or there's, a development needed later down the line to be able to really make it work all singing and dancing. But I think what you guys have got the opportunity to do is, because you're starting to own actually those apps, all the different parts of the ecosystem itself, means that integration could be endless, couldn't it? And that's where, in reality, that's where you've got the opportunity to do is create a bit of a wave there, be a disruptor in terms of we're not just integrating, but we're deeply integrating. And I think as accountants, we've got to start appreciating that there's an integration and then there's a deep integration and what that can do for it. Because I don't know if you're allowed to say some of the things you've got planned for, your ecosystem as it is as a whole, but there's some really exciting stuff down the line, isn't there, for it?
Yeah, there is some really exciting stuff, and obviously we know of what's going on within Bright. Obviously you've kindly become a bit of an early adopter and under NDA, so we won't go into anything else. But I'm really excited about what's coming out from Bright, and I think it's really exciting to kind of think that we're continually assessing what's in the market and what can Bright do to better cater for our users. And I think we'll continuously develop our offering, and just I suppose watch this space really in that regard.
Yeah, and what I like about it, from what I've seen, is it's still that pain point mentality. It almost is like you've got someone sat next to an accountant still and gone, that's taking a bit of time to do that. Why are you taking that time, and when we could just develop software for it? So yeah, no, I'm really excited for it. So the Bright acquisition then, that's all done and dusted in terms of from AM. We've got that new approach. What's that mean for you and your role? How's that now been extended? Has that given you more opportunities? Have you kind of got opportunities to try things you've never been able to try before, or is it same old? How's it been for you?
No, so it's definitely expanded. So obviously I was one of 3 as accountancy manager in the marketing department, joined one of, I think it's 15 of us now in the marketing department within Bright. So I am one of 3 marketing managers, and we've got a team like that we're working with that do various different campaigns across a range of different marketing activities. So what I really like is we've got a lot more internal resource available at our own disposal. We've got our videographer with us today. We've got a team of content writers. We've got somebody working exclusively on social media. I think if you kind of see what we're doing from let's take video and social media for instance, we're able to improve the quality of what we're doing, and I really I take quite a lot of pride in looking at the content that we're producing, and the way our brand is portrayed through the content that we're delivering, and just I suppose the tone of voice, it starts to feel like, oh yes, that sounds like Bright, that looks like Bright. And by having a bigger team with specialists in each of these different areas, you're able to improve the quality in what you're doing. So we're doing a big range of different activities, but what I'm more bothered about is about the quality of what we're doing. So my role, they've asked me to focus on events and partnerships. Events is both on and offline events. So obviously I facilitate Bright's attendance at the likes of Accountex, DAS, Accounting Web Live, all the major accounting industry events that you'd expect us to be at, but also having a look at our webinars. And they kind of said to me, John, I really like the webinars that Accountancy Manager ran. Can you run them for Bright? Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to. And we've recently launched a Bright Ideas webinars program, and these webinars they're drilling down on one particular issue at a time that might be of interest to our users. So, for instance, we did one recently where it was a panel discussion, got a couple of our users coming on talking about how they grew their practice, sharing different tips and tricks and about strategies and initiatives that they've implemented in their firms and how it's worked for them. So, for instance, we had Adam Clegg on, and he was talking about how networking has really worked for him. On the same panel, we had Carly talking about how networking didn't work for her because she's a national firm, and comparing and contrasting those experiences and just telling the users about it. Why are we doing these sessions? Is it trying to generate leads, trying to generate money for Bright? No, it's giving good quality content back to our users, because go back to the point about trying to build a Bright community. That's what we're trying to achieve. We want people to kind of recognize that Bright has given them value. Again, they want them to have a relationship with Bright and kind of think, oh, that's really good that Bright did that. Bright understand me. Oh yeah, I had some value from Bright because of that. So going forward, I'm really excited about the next Bright Ideas webinar we've got coming up. It's all about utilising LinkedIn for your accountancy or bookkeeping practice. And we've got an amazing lineup. We've got Ashley Leeds, who is basically LinkedIn consultant. So obviously, if you're on LinkedIn, you've probably seen Ashley's content. Sam Mitchum as well, and Fran from Future Cloud. So I don't know if you've seen the Dermot Hamlin. He produces the top 100 list of LinkedIn followers for the
Curly Whirly.
Yeah, for the Curly Whirly, for the people with most followers in the UK accountancy industry, and all three of them are in the top 60. I think Fran might be number 3, come to think of it. I think Sam might be 14, and I think Ashley's around 60. But, amazing quality lineup for this webinar. And again, it's Bright's kind of given me free rein to kind of say, like, okay, go and do this, and let's improve quality and what we're delivering, better quality content for our users. So I'm pleased to see Bright users sign up to sessions as well, and engaging with the sessions when they're signing up and coming on as well, submitting questions, hearing from people. So I'm quite excited about my bits of Bright, if you will. It's not to say that I'm exclusively, obviously, events and partnerships. I still play a role within the wider marketing team as one of the marketing managers. It's obviously I'm responsible for assisting with writing the strategy about what we're going to be doing going forwards, and kind of like identifying events or different campaigns we're going to run different points in the year to be able to say, okay, that's topical for Brighton, or that's topical for our users. Let's do something around that. So it's there's certainly a wide remit. It sounds like I'm quite niche into one area, but actually in reality, I think, well, all of us in marketing, you wear lots of different hats at any one time, and that's certainly the case with us at Bright.
Yeah, what I love about the whole Bright story is that, like you said at the introduction of when Bright acquired you, everyone seems to have had that step up and that opportunity. It's career progression, isn't it? It's giving opportunities for people to fulfill their, what they wanted to achieve, and it's given that. So I love that. And what next could be BrightCon at some point? We could have
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's the opportunities and the future for us. It really is. It's up to us to make what we want to happen. And I talk a lot internally about, we're at ground zero at the moment, and we're building the Bright brands. One day we're going to look around and we're going to say, wow, we are so fortunate to work for this organisation, and the solution that we're putting out to our users is so amazing. We're building that right now. So at the moment, I think people do still have that relationship and that association with our legacy products. But that won't always be the case. People will, one day think of just Bright, and it's going to be us within the business at the moment that are going to make that happen. And we're being given the opportunity to do that for our users, and also, of course, as you say, progress our own careers in the process as well. Because we've been given the ball, and it's up to us to run with it now.
I love it, and I'm really excited for what that holds, because I think you're starting to see the fruits of that coming through. You're starting to see the product changing slightly here, changing slightly there, and it is all for the better. So we're looking forward to that one. From your point of view then, with the accounting industry as it is, you've got a really good insight. Like, you're having these webinars and you're seeing what's going on. What do you feel like at the moment that we obviously see the majority of the ones at the higher end, the influencers, if you like, they're doing really well in terms of getting that message out there and talking about what's working and what's not. Do you see the accounting industry as a whole now slowly but surely starting to move forward? Do you feel like this is the start of, like you said, the golden era for accountancy apps? Do you feel like accountancy firms are starting to follow the suit now? Or do you still think there's still a lot more work to go from your end? I mean, your software is designed to help us be bigger, be better. That's what your software does. Do you see that actually happening, or is that still, are we still, as accountants normally are we still lagging behind a little bit, do you think?
It's difficult, because of course the people that sort of, that we often hear of are the accountants that are on the the forefront of change. They're looking to embrace new solutions. They're the ones that have kind of been a bit more proactive and been like, oh, okay, what's out there on the market that can impact my practice and improve my my quality of life, if you will. And whereas it can obviously be an echo chamber if you only listen to our own users, and sometimes I kind of feel like, oh wow, everybody's getting on the bandwagon, everyone's embracing technology, and then sometimes you kind of like hear other things and you kind of think, oh, actually not everybody's at the same point of the journey. And I think we need to recognise that different firms are at different points in that journey, and for our users, educating them on what practice management is and does, that might seem like a ridiculous strategy because they're already involved. And why would we do that? But, well, the reason we're doing that is because not everybody's at that same point in their journey. So a big, I suppose a big thing for me is a bit of a challenge within the industry is just knowing what products and solutions are out there and what they're doing for people. So we ran a webinar. I think it was last summer now. It is when I ran something called the AM Summer Sessions. Oh, actually, you was on it, wasn't it? Yeah. So one particular session that jumps out to me is people were talking about pricing and quoting and whatnot, and people were discussing in the comments on Zoom about well, what system do you use? Go Proposal, and other people were like, I've never heard of it. Now, for me and you kind of haven't heard of Go Proposal. That's such a strong brand within the industry, but for me, it speaks to actually, so there is still a proportion of the industry that's, probably quite happy with doing what they're doing the way they've been doing it, and maybe only now they're starting to kind of go, okay, am I falling behind the competition? Am I getting more and more work for the same fees that I've always charged? Am I actually worse off than I was, a few years ago? And then now they're starting on their technology adoption journey, if you will. So I think sometimes I feel very positive about the industry, and I think yes, we're all going in the right direction. But we do need to recognise that there is a bigger industry than just our own users or our own sector of the market. And I think we just need to, as not just Bright, but generally all software vendors, everybody in the industry just needs to keep being positive and keep embracing those changes. Obviously, the pandemic had a huge impact on that. We saw lots and lots of businesses coming to the Accountancy Manager. Obviously, that was our experience. People came to Accountancy Manager at the start of the pandemic looking for a solution that they signed up thinking the 30-day free trial that we offer was going to be sufficient to get them through the pandemic. And that's laughable now, but actually, when lockdown hits, that's what we thought. We didn't know how long it was going to last for. To be honest with you, Aaron, we shut the office on a Wednesday afternoon. We sent everybody home on Wednesday close of play. I didn't take my phone home because I thought I'd be back on Monday morning. And again, it's laughable now, but we didn't know at the time. And people kind of, obviously, what happened, and we kind of got through to the summer, and some people started opening the offices back up again. And I think some people kind of went, wow, glad that's not going to happen again. And then, of course, we had a second lockdown, and then that forced more people to go, okay, no, I really do need to investigate a solution, and also not just get a solution to get us through the lockdown. Let's get a solution that's going to last and forever, and this is going to be our new way of working. So I suppose the whole pandemic kind of really did force a lot of accountants to embrace technology. It obviously also forced a lot of clients to embrace technology, because we were then starting to talk to all our clients over Zoom, and then it started to ask the question of, well, do I need this local accountant, or can I just go anywhere in the country and just speak to them all online? And so I suppose now when clients are more open to adopting technology, that made more accountants react to that as well. So so that's a long way of saying, I think actually the industry as a whole, we've still got to do some work. I think there is some very positive examples about lots of people embracing solutions, but I think one day we will all get there, but there's still some work to do in it.
Yeah, and I hope so, because one of the things that we really do want to see is, as a small practice committee of ICAW and all that my hats that I wear, it's easy enough to kind of look at our eco chamber and you look at the LinkedIn list, like you said there, and majority of those top 100 will be absolutely fine, but there are still accounts out there who do need the help, do need the assistance. And with everything that's come in terms of making tax digital and all that sort of stuff, then it's great to see that you guys are still thinking about that. Like there's still a market that interests you, and there's going to be a tax way of it or helping them, isn't there? Johann did bring in some questions, so even though he is now sunning himself on holiday, he's still got to get some questions in there. And his question was his view on, or what is your view, should I say, on the practice managing market space at this point in time. Be really interesting to see what your view on the Pixie deal with QBO. So, the fact that they've kind of bring it from there. Setanta, or however you say it, it's kind of not having the best rap at the moment with the Iris side of things. And then client engager and people like that entering the market space. What's your view on it at the moment? Is this healthy competition, or how are you seeing it?
I'm as I said, I'm less bothered about the competitors. I'm more bothered about Excel. I think there are competitors out there, and yes, we will always be comparing functionality to Center or Pixie or Client Engager. But the better perspective for me is that people are just, at least they're looking at new practice management solutions. At least they're adopting some sort of technology. There's certainly enough market for us all to go at to be able to get people on board with our own solutions. If every accountant in the country was all using practice management software, then great. Let's all go kind of like, be competitive and and compare and contrast our different functionalities. But at the moment, let's just try and get people off Excel. Let's try and educate the industry on these are the benefits that the software is providing. Perhaps you might want to think about this for your practice. We certainly win more clients that are people that are using Excel at the moment than what they are any of our competitors, and I'd go as far as think our competitors will probably be the same in that regard. The QuickBooks Pixie deal is interesting. Has it been disclosed that it is Pixie? Because I don't think it has. I think a lot of people are speculating
we've made very good assumptions, and it seems to be that way. So let's put it as it's the assumption is that it's Pixie.
Yeah. So I suppose good for QuickBooks. Xero, I've had a practice management facility for quite some time. I think it's what they call it, their silver partners. You have to have a certain amount of clients on the system to be able to obtain it, and that's great. They're able to offer that functionality. I don't think the functionality is going to compare to something like Accountancy Manager. I think we are a bit more of a comprehensive offering than what Xero's practice management is. I think also with perhaps with Pixie, and for me, like the reason we are that is because we've just focused on being the best practice management system we could possibly can be. Xero and QuickBooks, they are bookkeeping platforms. That's not their bread and butter. So of course they aren't able to invest all their resource in just their practice management element, where of course Accountancy Manager always was. QuickBooks have been able to offer it. That's great. If they bring more people utilising practice management's elements of their offering, great. At least they can get those users on board, get them embracing the solution, and then perhaps they might then compare the different functionality that different practice management systems offer, and then it's fair game to see where they go from there.
Because I generally feel like the QuickBooks practice management and all those ones, I still see them as a solution that can work really well with Accountancy Manager as a firm. I do see that they're actually not offering a practice management-esque solution, but more of a let's look at our client's data and how clean and how tidy the client's data is. So, for me, I think it's exciting because it's the sort of thing that, for you guys, you're going to be able to see that that's one way of taking practice management solution, and hopefully one day you can also offer a similar sort of competitiveness to it, and then it starts driving the market, doesn't it? And competitiveness, and one of you will release one feature, the other one will release another feature, and then we're still building, and ultimately the accountant's the one that gains from it, isn't it? We get more toys, more tools, more efficiencies to run with. So yeah, I think it's really exciting time to see those coming through. So finally then, Jonathan, we've had a lot of advice thrown at our listeners today, and there's been a lot of really key aspects, I think, there. And I think for me, what it's shown is kind of there's a real bright future there. There's a real excitement there. But what is your one bit of advice that you would give to people who are just setting up in accounting? Now, we've asked everyone the same question. So if you were going to set up your own practice today, what's that one bit of advice you would use for it? Okay,
I suppose involve yourself within the community. Now, I recently did a market research survey where I sent out just a survey to all of our users, and I had like over 750 responses from it, which I thought was great. And one of the questions that I asked is, who do you turn to for advice most? And the number one answer was peers in mentor groups, in Facebooks or social media. And I just thought that was really interesting. What you might deem to be your competitors are actually really open to helping you, to sharing their experiences, to assisting you in some of the ideas that you might have. And I just thought it was one of those heartwarming ones where you kind of go, oh yeah, there's some really good eggs in the industry. And I see things that people are putting on LinkedIn all the time. There's people putting some great content out there. And it's really like motivating to think that actually as a community, other accountants want to help other accountants. If you ask, somebody will help you. If you involve yourself in these Facebook groups, people will listen, people will advise you. So if you're setting up, definitely get involved in the community, if you will. It'd be remiss of me not also to say that you really should think about practice management software from day one. I've seen it time and time again have a massive impact on startup firms. Now, with the functionality that we're able to offer, enables people to kind of set up their practice in the right manner from day one, which is then going to be scalable going forwards. Let's get good systems in progress right now, and then let's develop those and keep growing the system as the firm grows alongside it as well.
I love that, and that's especially that first point about getting talking to the rest of the community, because it's a lonely place being a practice manager.
It really is. So I went out for dinner with an accountant, somebody that I used to work with, and he set up his own firm, and we was kind of just chatting about like the industry and some of the the challenges and opportunities that he's facing at the moment, and he's kind of saying like, where else do you turn to talk to somebody about the accounting industry? Because you go down the pub, and you're probably not going to bump into another accountant who's going through the same sort of things that you are. But online, there are people going through the same sort, or being through the same sort of things that you might be challenging with. It can be a really lonely place being the practice owner. So there's other people out there in the same situation, all the willing to help.
Definitely. And for advice from us in terms of getting those kind of contacts going, for us, Accountex, those sort of items or places. I mean, yes, it's great to talk to vendors. It's a huge opportunity for us as accountants to get to know what is Accountancy Manager, what is Bright, etc., etc. But the most benefit I've ever had out of them is those contacts, those groups. Now I have a WhatsApp group of, I'm thinking about charging this for this. Does that feel right? That sort of thing. And just having that as a backup. And to this podcast, we wouldn't even have this podcast if it wasn't building those relationships and getting those elements together.
It's a great example of an accountant giving back to the community and helping people. So I'm really pleased to see you doing it. I'm obviously delighted to take part as well. And it doesn't surprise me to hear that you got WhatsApp groups of people asking these sorts of questions. And because the questions aren't raised just at that, we'd say day one, year one. I in fact, we were talking about talking about pricing on a recent webinar, and people are really kind of going into it and saying that they were an established firm, like from 5 to 10 years old, that have really got themselves into a bit of a pickle in regards to pricing, because when they started, their pricing strategy was just to be cheap and just be undercut the market and bring clients on board. Well, as those years have kind of rolled by, well, actually now they're a really established firm, really solid offering, shouldn't be charging cheap fees anymore. But that's historically what they've always done. Didn't want to be in that situation anymore. How do we go through that? Well, the community opened their arms to them, really kind of like, spoke to them, said, you should do this, you should do that. And I like to think that actually that went on to go and have a big impact on that practice. Hopefully go on to go and charge the fees that they should be charging. And they wouldn't have had that advice if they hadn't have asked for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's the important bit, isn't it? That knowing the community and seeing that sort of goodness is coming, then it's about being involved, isn't it? And I think that whole point you said there about making sure that you are involved is critical. And I think the more that we can encourage, you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers on LinkedIn, but the more you can encourage just being involved in those conversations, I think is right for everyone. And I think the one final bit I'd like to make on what you just said there was about that idea about when do you move to practice management? Because I don't know if you know my story, but I have Boffix, which, has had accounting managers since pretty much day one. But also I have my own small accounting firm, and I was that guy with an Excel document, and I was going through it. And last January, I really struggled. It was, throughout all of my different hats that I wear, that was the one that was causing me the most problem, because I was just relying on Excel. Finally moved to some practice management solution, but I should have done it a long, long time ago. So, I think as much as we possibly can, we need to keep encouraging people that now's the right time. There isn't, it isn't let's get to X amount of clients and then think about it. I think you're right. I think it's almost from day one, really, you should be looking at some sort of practice management solution, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Brilliant. And with that, then, that's the end of today's podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining in and listening. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming along to this. I'm sorry we've had to have it in such a terrible venue, but hopefully it's been all right for you.
I've just about got through it. Thank you. But no, delighted to come onto the session, and appreciate the opportunity.
No problem at all. And we'll definitely be looking to get Jonathan back on some point later, because I think there's a lot more that we need to grill him about going forward. So remember, podcasts and all of that lot. So remember that we go live every single Wednesday. So make sure that you get yourself joined in on whatever podcast service you want. But don't forget, we go live as well. So we go live on Monday mornings at 8:30 on all the different platforms. So come and join us. We have got some really good guests joined up for all coming along for We Have Cool Friends. So we're going to look forward to bringing them to you soon. So cheers, everyone, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Bye for now.